I mean, I wouldn't want to do that all day. For me, it's been a long time coming, and maybe some of you have been waiting on me to start building a sawmill shed. Well, finally I'm getting started. Let me just show you what I'm going to do. The first thing, while I got a good cold day outside, a nice warm place on the inside, I say it's nice and warm. It's probably, I don't know, 55 or so, but that's plenty toasty to be doing what I'm going to be doing. Let me show you what I got going. So I brought these 2x4s in here. They've been air drying for quite some time, and I'm working on making the beam, the long beam where the logs will load onto the sawmill. It's a little bit maybe hard to see what I got going, but I'm going to try to explain it here. All right, this would be on the end away from the saw head, and what I have here, this line here represents the post. So the post is set under this, and I'm building a truss system for this beam. It is 20 feet, 9 inches long. So this end, six of the truss will sit on this post. On that end, 3 inches of the truss will sit on the post, and then I'm going to add another 10 feet on that end. So the other 10 feet will sit on that 3 inches. What I've done here, and then let me just go ahead and mention this while I'm here. For my knee braces, they will be 3 feet from the post over to here, and then be at a 45-degree angle. And so that reduces from post to post, clear span is 20 feet. Reducing it 3 feet down on each side will make it clear span from here to there 14 feet. All right. So the truss itself is going to be 16 inches tall, using 2x4s, and doing something here that is pretty standard modus operandi in building trusses is I'm adding a 3/4 inch camber. This line is a straight line. The bottom rung here is 3/4 inches up. The top rung, that represents a straight line. It's 3/4 inches up. So that's sort of an explanation of what I'm doing. Again, from that end to that end, total span of the truss will be 20 feet 9 inches. There'll be 2 trusses built, and then, well, I'll just build it and you'll see what I got going. Somebody may ask, well, why don't you just cut a beam? Absolutely, you can cut a beam. no problem at all. I mean, it's a little bit of a problem if you don't have a 20-foot bed, 20-foot 9 inches in my case, and then you've got to, you know, negotiate the log back and forth under the saw head, and that's a lot of work. I'm a one-man operation, could be done. I'm going with this method for 2 reasons. Number one, so I don't have to negotiate some kind of trying to mill some kind of long beam, and secondly, for weight. I can carry this 20-foot 9-inch truss by myself. I can carry it out there. I could set it up on the post by myself, and then I set up the second layer and I screw it together. Long answer to the short answer to the long answer is that's why I'm doing it this way. Now, will it be strong enough to carry the weight? For my area, it's going to be overstrong. How do I know that? Well, I've got a friend who owns a truss company, and I cheated a little bit. Went down and I said, if I was going to get you to build me a truss and I wanted it X feet long and I wanted X number of inches high, what would it look like? Well, I knew he had the program. He could run it up on his computer, his CAD machine, and in 2 seconds he could print me out a copy of what the engineer's drawing would be for the truss. And he was kind enough to do that. I told him, and of course he knew that I have a mill, and he knew I would be using full size, nominal size lumber, full 2 inches by 4 inches. It's probably shrunk down a little bit, but that's what it was originally milled. But he knew I was going to be home building the trusses. So he let me have a copy of the engineer's plan. And in fact, he was kind enough to sell me some of the nail plates. And actually, not only was he kind enough to sell me some of the nail plates that I was going to need, he also said that if I need to use, he's got a portable press that will press the plates into the lumber. And I said, I sure appreciate that. I said, I'll probably just hammer them in. He said, well, this will look a whole lot neater. And I said, yeah, but you know, I'm not really going for a beauty contest. On my mill, I've got the 16-foot 6-inch bed, I believe it is. That means I will have clear span from the saw head all the way out, and my mill's on a trailer. So I'll have clear span all the way out from the saw head in its full back position up to the tongue of the trailer. Tried to think through it, all the stuff that, you know, you don't want to have. And one of the things I don't want to have is every time I bring a log into the mill, I don't want to have to be tiptoeing around the post, making sure that I got plenty of room on each side. Feel really good about my span width, and I feel really good about the strength of this thing. So let's get to building some more, get to cutting some more, and start fastening this thing together. And this upright here is half the distance between that and that. And somebody's probably going to say, well, don't that take time to build that? Yeah, it might not be your best advantage, but for me, I can build this quicker than I can build it all. All right, so what I'm going to do now is put some clamps on that to hold that all in place, I think. And then start cutting my bracing, my web bracing, if you will. So I got the first one cut here. And it's probably because I am dealing with rough cut lumber, you know, and they're shrinking at different denominations and everything. I'm not going to be able to pattern them, you know, cut all exactly alike. What I'm doing is just putting the board on here and marking it and then cutting it, and I'll do the same thing for the next section. I cut both ends of this one at 5 degrees, which is what that one was. So, and that makes for a pretty good joint. I believe that's gonna work. Come in here, let me show you all what I've got. There's the joint on that at 5 degrees. 5 degrees. Like I say, I've got a 3/4 inch camber in it. But I guarantee you after that staple plate gets on there, it's gonna be all right. Let's get these two in here and that truss will be ready to fasten together. Like so. So I've got all my web, I can cut those at 5-degree angles. My center pieces were 8.5 inches. My long cord, 10 feet 4.5. 10 feet 4.5 makes 20 feet 9 inches. 16 inches deep, 3/4 inch camber. I'm ready to drive some plates and flip it over. Drive some plates on the other side, and this one will be done. I'm going to guess somewhere around 2 hours. The other one will probably go a whole lot quicker. So probably in 3 hours time, I'll have my 2 trusses built. Set them to the side, go set some posts. These will be ready to set on the post. I believe that's where I'm at. Well, the kid had to pull off and get a little dinner last evening, so I just called it a day. Been sort of under the weather and energy level's not been, you know, exactly where I'd love for it to be, but getting better. Anyway, anywho's, getting back started on it this morning, and I think what I will do is try to set a timer to see how long it takes to build this truss, the second one. The first one, I didn't do a timer. I think I've got probably an hour and a half on it or something like that. And then right before I was getting ready to leave last evening, or yesterday afternoon, I noticed that my camber had sort of straightened out, and so I had to do a little tensioning, if you will. Put a strap on it from that corner to that corner on the top. Make sure I had it real good and tight. And then I put a strap on it here in the middle to pull it up. What was happening, it had straightened, or wanted to straighten, go back to straight. All the 2x4s is nice and straight. And I started putting the plates on here, wanting to straighten back up. So had to pull the camber back in it. And this would be easier to do, obviously, on a plywood surface where you could just tack stuff in place. But I don't have that here, which is fine. I just put a brace up again it here, push it down to the line, and then there in the middle, I just pulled it up to put my 3/4 inch camber in it, and then I've got that in secured over there. So, ready to, I'll finish nailing these plates on here, and I think before I turn it over to nail the plates on the back side, I'll go ahead and cut all the pieces for the second truss and get them laid out on there, and sort of use this setup here as the template, and that will be easier to get the camber in the second one, or that's what I'm thinking. I don't know, we'll see. So anywho, let's get busy. Well, the kids had a little bit of a change of plan. Now that I've got the plates on this side, I'm going to flip it over and go ahead and plate the other side while I got this one here. And then I'll get started cutting on the second one. So I've got the plates nailed on both sides of my truss, or my beam, whatever you want to call it. And you can see here, that's 20 feet, 9 inches long. As I said, first 6 inches of that will be sitting on the post, 3 inches of that will be sitting on the post. And as you may can see, right there, is my camber. All right, let's cut some more 2x4s and build a couple of more trusses. Build one more truss. I know most of you know this, but when you're marking your lumber, it's the way I was taught to do it anyway. When you're marking your lumber, instead of putting a straight line, put a little crow's foot on it. Gives you a point right there, and you know that point is where you want to cut. Now I got 8.5 inches from here to that point. So I'm gonna put my saw blade on this side of that point, and then I'll have an 8.5 inch block. I know you know that, but some of you might not. Well, that little job is done. So yeah, I know it's a bit unusual, and you know, some people will say, well, that's just way too much work, I'll just make a beam. And yeah, probably can do that. But when the kid's working alone and trying to go for easier, not harder, structurally stable, I just don't believe I can beat it. That's just my opinion now. And I know maybe some of you, you'll have to wait to see it, to see how it's going to work. But listen, can't guarantee much, but I can virtually guarantee you this right here, it's going to work. As you can see right there, that's 4 inches, and I'll put another 2x4 on it, either on that side or the outside. Probably put it on the outside in case I put some siding on it or something, I don't know. But that'll make it 6 inches wide. You'll just have to stay tuned. Listen, appreciate you joining me, and my friend, I'll see you in the next one.